r/AskReddit. What's the worst date you've ever been on? One time I went on a Cupid date and everything was normal until the end. She was a cute, blonde girl that liked some of the things I liked. We seemed to make each other laugh via a Cupid chat, so I asked her if she wanted to meet. She said sure. We met up at the Elephant and Castle in San Francisco. It's a popular bar and has enough room to have private conversations. I was kind of nervous and didn't want to drink because I was on medication, but she called me out, so I ordered what she ordered. A passy idea. We go upstairs and nervously talk. At first it was awkward, but we both seemed to loosen up quickly. She has a darker sense of humor than I expected, bringing up topics like burned bodies discovered on the side of the road and making jokes. I'm into it and play along too. Everything seems completely fine and normal, and I start maybe to even like her, and she touches me playfully and it just seems completely normal and easy. Then suddenly, without anything weird being said or anything happening, no phone call or emotion or reaction, she gets up and just walks away rapidly. I was so confused by the suddenness I thought maybe I had missed something she said, and followed her through the crowded bar as she increased her speed. She never looked back at me or anything, she just kept going for the door. I thought maybe she was having a panic attack or something like that, but when we got outside she was completely fine. She kept walking away at top speed. When I finally said, "Hey, wait a moment," she turned around with this look on her face, like she didn't know who I was and said, "Yes." I was like, oh that was so sudden, I mean, I just wanted to say goodbye. Maybe we can shake hands or something. I didn't really know what to say, and I tried to make a joke thinking about the least intimate greeting. She said, "Why?" as she stuck out her hand and put it in mine awkwardly. Then she turned around and hightailed it out there. I took a minute and looked at her walk away, and I tried retracing my steps of what we said and did and trying to think of why she reacted like that. I really felt like I must be the shittiest person ever. What I didn't notice while thinking was that there was this huge crowd of people smoking outside the bar. I mean, it must have been 50 people just all around the bar, and we had been standing right in the center of them. I didn't notice at first, but after she left they all started cracking jokes about me. Like tons and tons of jokes, and it was like suddenly I could hear them. So I kind of looked around me realizing what was happening, until I recognized the jokes were about me. Finally one very tall black dude smoking a clove shouted loudly, "Ah shit. Romeo, you fucked that shit up. Look how fast that bitch is walking." Everyone just erupted in laughter. I was so double stunned that I just kind of walked away slowly back toward the BART station. As I walked I heard that same voice yell, "Oh shit, did I hurt that guy's feelings? Sorry brother." That's not the worst date I have been on, but it was one that I think of a lot in the shower when I feel depressed. Happened to my cousin. No, not me, my cousin. And I will tell this story till I die. Her and I lived together at the time. She worked at a tanning salon. She mentions this guy Vaughn that started coming in, and he's really hot and always flirts with her. So I guess 2 weeks after back and forth flirting, Vaughn asks her out on a date. She comes home, gets all prettied up. I wish her luck, tell her to please call me if she decides to stay over, so I know she's okay. She's a few years younger than me, and I have no idea who this guy is. Anyways, she ends up calling me about 5 hours later. Hysterical. Bawling her eyes out. Can't understand a word. All I can make out is "I'm at the hospital. My car is at blah 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 address. Please go get it then come pick me up." So my boyfriend and I go get her car. We drop it off at our house. Then my boyfriend decides to pick up a couple buddies of his along the way because it sounds like someone needed an ass kicking. We had no idea what was going on. We get to the hospital and she's outside shivering. A man is standing near her, but not beside her. He looks worried, and she looks like hell. She jumps in the car and screams, "Just drive." Me being mad as fuck, say to the guy, "Are you Vaughn?" He looks like he's going to cry at any second. He says, "Yes, please don't be mad, I brought her here, I had to, she didn't want me to." Please let me explain. My cousin is in absolute hysterics at this point. Punching the back of my seat. Please go. I said I don't have time to listen to you. She wants to go home. I need to take care of her. We drive home. I keep asking what the fuck happened. Please tell me now. Did he hurt you? Do we need to call the cops? Her response is no please. Nothing like that. I'll tell you at home. Not in front of other people. So I left it at that. Dying inside to know. We get home. I tuck her in bed. Give her some tea. Try and calm her down. Every time she tries to start explaining, she buries her face and cries. Finally I get it out of her. After she left our house, she met him at his house. They talked and had a coffee, and he asks what she would like to do. She suggests a movie. He said okay, let's go to Blockbuster. They go to Blockbuster. This is where it all starts. They pick their movie and head to the cashier. She says she doesn't feel so good and remembers waking up on the floor. Vaughn told her she passed out and hit her head pretty hard on the counter. She said he was begging her to go to the hospital right then and there. She said no, I'll be fine. Let's just go watch the movie. He agrees. They get back to his place. He keeps asking if she's alright, if she would please change her mind and go to the hospital. She says no over and over. She said she doesn't remember falling asleep, but she guessed that's what happened because suddenly wakes up urgently needing to shit and vomit. She has no idea the layout of this guy's house, so she scrambles to the floor feeling dizzy again. Starts crawling, literally, asking where the washroom is. He tries picking her up to take her, but she said she couldn't hold back. Throws up all over his floor, all over him, shits in her pants. She starts crying. She said he was so concerned, he didn't even care. He just took her to the bathroom to finish. While they make it to the bathroom, she said she pulls her pants down before she makes it to the toilet and shits like a parrot all over the walls. He gently closes the door and says pass me your clothes, and he has something for her to wear. She agrees and does so. She said she stopped vomiting and shitting and finally agreed to go to the hospital. He takes her, and then shortly after I got that phone call. While she's telling me this, I'm laughing so hard, crying, rubbing her head, and wondering if this is all a joke. No, because they ended up getting married, and we bring this up at least once a year. Edit. My apologies to everyone reading my giant wall of text with no paragraphs. I honestly was not expecting this reaction. I was at work and so excited when I saw this question pop up. I wrote it too fast. I'm a pro at telling it IRL. Typing not so much. I'm also relatively new to Reddit, and I'm on mobile. And I'll stop making excuses. Again, I'm sorry. I will edit as properly as I can. Also, thank you everyone for the kind words. It was a surprisingly happy ending, and I truly do love telling this story because of that fact. I'll be honest, I was kind of hesitant to tell the internet, hoping it would just get buried. My cousin and Vaughn do not read it, but I think I may ask them to now. One more thing. I know this is a lot of Reddit users' pet peeve, but thank you stranger for the gold. Fuck what everyone says. Reddit is awesome. You're not all a bunch of trolls. I'm glad this made people laugh, and hopefully not curl in embarrassment at their own shitty first date story, cause this one really does take the cake lol. I was at a good sized house party in college, and the host introduced me to his labmate shortly after I got there. We got to talking while things were warming up. No one was tanked yet and people were still arriving. Eventually the labmate asked me for my number. He was okay looking, seemed a little dull but harmless, and I agreed. We barely knew each other, but why not? It's college. You meet people and have a series of terrible and meaningless relationships. He disappeared shortly after. I didn't think much of it because the house was decent sized and figured he wandered off. The party ended around 3 when we were out of booze. The next morning around 8:30 am I got a call. Barely conscious, maybe still a bit drunk, I answered like an idiot. It was him. He asked me out for a nice steak dinner in church that evening. To get him off of the phone as quickly as possible so I could go back to sleep, I agreed to whatever he was asking without really understanding the question, and awoke around noon with no real memory of the conversation. He called me a few hours later asking me for my address so he could pick me up. Memories came flooding back. I gave it to him, hastily showered, put on makeup and a nice outfit, regretting agreeing to this, but looking forward to the steak, and went down to my apartment's garage to meet him. He was dressed short of schlubby, but I figured that's a grad student for you. I didn't think a nice place would really turn us away. As he drove, he proceeded to flip through dozens of songs, mostly Elvis, never letting one finish, sometimes starting from the beginning of the same song several times in a row. I heard the first minute of You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog more time than I care to admit that night. He then revealed to me he didn't like music and everything on his iPod was from his dad borrowing it for a road trip. It was a 64 GB, big for the time, and expensive, with around 100 songs on it. Utterly bizarre and distracting. It also turned out he didn't really like anything, couldn't name a book he'd read since high school or even one he enjoyed, didn't watch TV, but was lurking while his roommates were watching Fawlty Towers, but didn't understand their humor, didn't have a favorite movie. His reply was I like everything. When I asked and said he liked Titanic, didn't play video games, didn't know Harry Potter was a book series before a movie. Favorite food was Taco Bell. What had I gotten into? We were heading to a nice part of town, past a couple of nice restaurants, and I eagerly ask him where we are gonna end up. He replies with a vague "Go, you'll see." To keep the conversation going, I asked where he disappeared to last night. He said he left because his bedtime is at 10:30 PM sharp every night. I asked if that's why he'd called me so early. He seemed surprised and thought he'd given me time for sleeping in. Holy shit. My apprehension grew. He then turned suddenly into a Denny's parking lot. We go in. Shit. I'm way overdressed. We are seated. I figured I was promised steak. I'm getting one even if it's nastiest, most grisly slab of beef in the city. He turns to me and eagerly asks if I'm okay with splitting. I was tempted to buy us each our own damn steak, but to be polite and to not embarrass him I agreed, resolving to eat a proper dinner at home. The steak came, we split, I tried to not feel the judgmental eyes of the staff on me, and proceeded to church. It was a Saturday night young adult service with contemporary music, and was supposed to be some sort of place for the non-secular devout to hang out on Saturday nights instead of sex, drugs and rock and roll, I guess. Whatever the heathens do. Free coffee and stale donuts. During the singing, large group of people would jump up onto the pews and furiously bounce along to the music, belting out the lyrics. He was smiling, clapping his hands along to the music, and interjected with him waving his arms in the air. I was dying a little and couldn't wait to leave. They had a, thankfully, short service on keeping yourself pure, and my horror grew to the point I think I could power a small city with it. He was nodding along vigorously with the pastor, with the occasional aha and other grunts of agreement. Did he bring me here to convert me from my sinful ways? Damn. The evening cold gone so much worse, but thankfully he didn't ask me what I thought of the service, or maybe he was astute enough to detect my ire. He took me home without incident. My roommates piled on me asking how it was, and well, I told them the same thing I'm telling here. I went on an online date with this guy when I first moved back home from college. We met up, and I have a habit of telling my parent I'm going out, I'll be back later /O specifics, etc. Anyway, this time, she says just be careful, and if he can't drive, get out the car. We were en route to our first destination, and it was closed. So, he asked me where I wanted to go and I said, Hooters and bowling. I know, keep it classy right here. His driving was so reckless. I mean, really bad. Anyway, we ended up going across town, because he wanted to take me to this one place. By this time I've determined I'm not into him, and I want out, so I just go along with it. Maybe we can be friends, right? His brakes give out, and we end up having an accident. We ran into the back of a truck pretty hard, and I jerk forward, glasses flying off. After the smoke settles, when I'm nervous, I start laughing. He asks if I'm okay. I said sure, and I'm looking for my glasses and he goes, oh, this is bad, really bad. So, I said why? No insurance? He says, no, I have a warrant for my arrest. He gets out the car and runs. As he's running into the sunset, he's yelling back at me, I'm really sorry, I can't afford to go to jail again. The person we hit leaves. So, I'm the only one there, and police show up. I had to call my parent to come pick me up because I have no friends in the area, and of course, I gave the cops his info. I knew I wasn't going to talk to him again. The police gave me a ride to a gas station across the street as I was waiting for someone to pick me up. I leaned back, took a picture in the cop car, posted it on Facebook, and tagged him in the picture. Somewhere in between the running he found time to get on Facebook and block me. Bad part about not just the accident, I didn't even get a chance to enjoy Hooters and wings. I'm walking down the street just finishing a conversation on my old ass craptastic flip phone. Just as I'm hanging up, wham, I know into someone and drop my phone. I apologize, grab my phone, and head back to work. 10 minutes later I get a phone call. Hey, I think we switched phones by accident. Turns out the girl I bumped into had the same phone as me. Anyways, we plan to meet at a local coffee place after work that day to trade back. I walk up and see this very cute ginger wearing a suit dress. We chat for a bit. Turns out she works at a bank, likes what I like, and is totally up for getting dinner this weekend. Great. Saturday evening rolls around, and I swing by her place to pick her up. Out her door walks a girl who looks remarkably like that date, only instead of professional office clothes, she is wearing 4-inch platform hoe boots, fishnet stockings, some sort of corset-like top and spiky hair. Now normally I don't really care about a person's style, but I was bit taken aback. Who cares, I think, and jump out to open the door. Cue witty banter. Everything is going great. She's laughing at my jokes and her humor seems to match mine perfectly. She asks what the plan is for the night and I tell her I'm going to take her to my absolute favorite high quality dining establishment and get her a Big Mac. Hell, if she plays her cards right, I might even supersize it. She runs with the joke and even one-ups me. My spirits are high. She might have wild fashion, but this chick is cool. We arrive at this nice pub in town, and I turn off the car. What about McDonald's? Legit confused look on her face. I laugh, and upon seeing her face stop in confusion, we head inside and order dinner. I have a scotch, and she orders the biggest boot. This restaurant has glass boots of Bud Light I've ever seen. The waiter comes over and takes our order. As he's leaving, my date whispers rather loudly, I can't believe they let his people in such a classy place. We should probably check our food for spit before we eat it. Our waiter is black and has ears, so I'm beginning to panic. She continues her whispered commentary on the supremacy of whites, all the while putting away an obscene but impressive quantity of beer. Dinner arrives and she makes a point of checking her plate for saliva. Waiter and I make eye contact, and I like to think that he understood that I agreed with him that this girl was nuts. So 3 more boots of beer later, she excuses herself for a bathroom break while I take care of the check. I apologize profusely to the waiter for my date's conduct. Dude is a true gentleman. Don't worry about it, man. There are all sorts of people in this world. My date returns, and we head out. In my car she pulls out a cigarette and lights up. Doesn't even bother putting the window down. We should go shooting out at my dad's farm. What's your favorite fun? I vaguely excuse myself from such activities and point out that it is rather later and time to go home. I drop her off at her house and she says, this was great, except for that asterisk waiter. We should totally go get that Big Mac next time. See you soon. I flee. Posted this on Self a while ago, but this is the gist. I had met this guy this summer and we hit it off really well. He made me crab cakes. I'm from Maryland, so that is always great in my book. And we watched the fireflies in the forest behind his house, under the stars. We both agreed we had really enjoyed ourselves. We hooked up, that was great too. We decided to go get McFlurries from McDonald's and I thought, hey, I don't need any shoes. Now, keep in mind I'm 5 foot 6 inches, 120 pounds, blonde hair 19. So we hop in the car. His car is low and has tinted windows, so it looked sketch. We got ice cream and we were driving back, and he gets pulled over for not turning on his left turn signal at a left green arrow. The cop asks me my name, and he goes back to his car. 15 minutes pass, and we're both freaking out. Then another cop car pulls up. Rewind. I lost my wallet during the school year, and it was given to a cop. Unfortunately, there was a falsehood in there, so I was called and had to go get it. But they didn't say I was being charged, so they took my ID and I left. I get a call about a month later, and the cop says, "You need to come into the station to sign papers," and I asked, "Can you explain to me what's happening?" He said, "You just need to fill out some paperwork. Those who listen are better off than those who don't," and hung up. So I was thinking, was that a threat or no? I called my dad, and he talked to my uncle who is a cop, and they told me not to go in. Apparently, it was a summons I had to sign. And since I didn't go in, it turned into a warrant for my arrest. Unfortunately, I had no idea, because they were sending all the papers to my mailbox at my dorm at school, which is not where I live in the summer. So, fast forward. The cop comes back to the car and says, "Ma'am, did you know there is a warrant out for your arrest?" I had no idea. Fortunately, the kid I was with knew about everything previously. We waited for the cop to call the police, which was 3 hours away, and he told me he wasn't sure if they were going to have to come get me or if I could be detained in the county I was in. So we waited and waited and waited. Finally, he comes around and says I have to be detained there. A female cop comes to my side and asks me to get out. Ironically, I'm in a black and white striped dress, also with no shoes. They handcuffed me and put me in the cop car. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't wipe the tears off my face. I got to the jail with no idea of what was going to happen. They searched me, asked me questions, and put shackles on my ankles. I had no shoes on and my toes kept getting caught in the chains. Then they put me in a cell. I sat. They took my picture, my prints and all. They also laughed because it was a first date. 3:30 AM rolls around and finally they let me go out and sign papers. They take those fucking shackles off my ankles and I call the kid. Thankfully, I wrote his number on my hand before they took me away. He was right in the front with my shoes, my mom and my sister. His dad bought me coffee in the morning and a muffin, then have me a high five. Repost from another thread. I joined website for dating to try and get more dates. That was my only intent. I have been working too much for 2 years at my new job. I just wanted to have more fun. I got an email and set up a date with this girl. It's my 5th date from the site. It's been fun. But this one girl was like one of those love at first sight moments when we met at a restaurant. I saw HH, and she was perfect. I tried to play it cool, but I felt like I could just cut ties with all the girls I've dated and just commit to her. Physically, she was everything I could ever ask for and exactly my type. Her personality seemed about a 10/10. About 30 minutes into sitting down, we didn't even order cause we were just talking. The chemistry was as good as it was with my first love when I was 13. It was perfect. Sparks were flying. I thought I was done and ready to commit here. But then she tells me to forget about ordering food. Let's go somewhere else. And she has this idea. She won't say much, and I like surprises, so I didn't ask much. We jumped in my car and drove to this restaurant about 20 minutes away, kind of out of town. It was halfway up a mountain near a ski resort. I'm familiar with the area, so no big deal. We walk in, and her family is celebrating her aunt's birthday. There was only family and a lot of it, about 40 people. She introduces me and everybody was happy to meet me and real nice. Everybody also knew that she was out on a first date. They were asking her stuff like, "Is this the guy? Is this your date? Is this the one?" All of a sudden I wasn't so cool and relaxed. I felt heavy pressure to be on my best behavior. It was high pressure to the 3rd degree. But everybody was nice, so that helped. We sat down and I started being questioned by her older sister, her aunt, and another lady that I forget her relation to my date. The mom started kind of defending me and telling them to back off and let me eat. But the interrogating continued. After I don't know how long they turned to my date and jokingly said we approve. Then I was able to kind of get my bearings about me for a minute. I was totally off balance all night, just tense. I was afraid the back of my shirt would get that a big wet spot cause I felt sweat on my back. So the sister brings her cute little girl and lets me hold her, and she and my date started taking pictures of me holding her and somebody else's baby boy as well. I started to feel like the tone of it all was that we were a couple. I kind of felt like I was married to her and these nice people were my in-laws. After a couple of hours, probably closer to 3 hours, everybody was kind of tiring out and everything began to wind down. Keep in mind her car is still at the other restaurant down the hill. Then her dad suddenly asks me jokingly what my intentions are with his daughter. Though I can't remember how he phrased the question. Everybody looked at the table, looked at me, which is about half the people there. I guess I was exhausted from all the questioning. I was questioned by multiple people, multiple times, and the pressure of it all caused I kind of lost it. He asked the question. I looked across the table at her, and she told her dad to stop it. Her dad smiles and jokingly says that he'd really like to hear my response, and her uncle, I think, also said he'd like to know, jokingly. I looked at my date and said, "Can I talk to you alone for a minute?" To which her dad laughs loudly and says I made him nervous. So everybody is laughing now, and I guess it was a big joke. Then I said to my date, "Hey, can I talk to you alone for a minute?" I stood up in place, kind of. It was one of those long bench seats and I couldn't push it back cause other people were sitting on it. Then her sister, I think, says, "Oh, there are no secrets in this family, speak your mind." People then laugh again and everybody starts making jokes about not having secrets, and this man who married into the family somehow tells me that he remembers being in my place and he says, "Let me give you some advice. The best thing to do right now is speak your mind and be honest." Then others join in and echo his sentiment, all jokingly I think. So I looked at my date and she says something like, "You can tell me anything here, we are all family." She also I think was joking, but I had started to lose my ability to tell when people were joking and when they were serious. So the dad says, "Wait, I haven't gotten an answer to my question." So finally I speak directly to the dad and say, "I'd like to discuss that with her first." But I regretfully laughed as I said it. So her dad says, "I asked you first, I wanna know." I turn to my date and she says something like, "Go ahead, you can tell me, I'm a big girl, I can handle it." So I said okay and sat down, then took a couple of breaths while her dad kind of quieted everybody down. I started with, "I think I made a huge mistake." It all spiraled down from there. I said harsh things like that I felt like I was having a bad dream where I was suddenly married. I questioned her intentions in bringing me there. I said stuff like, "What were you thinking? Yes, I liked you, but I just met you, and right now I know your aunt." I pointed at her sitting next to me, "Better than I know you." I think she was humiliated, but I couldn't stop. The more I spoke, the more bad stuff came out. Total fucking tailspin. I said I want to find someone special, but I don't want to skip the first 29 dates and skip to date 30, which is what I'd done that night. Then people started interrupting and chiming in and suggesting that she and I slow down and have a real first date. I wasn't having it. I was out of control. I said, "No, it's too late for that. I feel robbed here. I wanted to meet this girl, get to know her, date her, and maybe fall for her, but now it's like we're engaged and her whole family is here and there are all these expectations. We skipped the getting to know each other and dating part, so I feel robbed." Then I said, "Yet another thing I regret." I said it's a huge red flag, with an emphatic gesture, that I asked for a minute alone with you to talk, and this is what I got instead. I added something like, "You're all great and a great family, but the lack of certain boundaries is a huge red flag for me. I would never let my relationship become family business." My date interrupts me at this point and says, "Okay, so let's talk in private. Let's go outside and talk. I'm sorry I didn't give you that minute. Let's go outside and talk privately. I'll give you all night." She was visibly shaken, and I could tell tears were inevitable. I stood up again, and realizing that I had insulted all of them, I just quietly walked out. I felt really bad cause they were all nice, and had nothing but the best intentions for me. They love her, and they were literally telling me that I was good enough, which should have been a compliment, but I somehow took it the wrong way and spat in their face. I didn't even drink. Finally my time to shine. Though this will get buried, I suffered for these stories, so I'm just happy to have an excuse. When I was in my mid to late 20s, I internet dated like it was my goddamn job. It started off because I was newly back in town and pretty shy, so I did it to get over my nervousness about dating. By the time these two stories happened, I was a veteran of the wars. I had rules, for instance, don't spend 2 months talking, get the in-person meet over quickly, get there early, and buy your own drink, never meet for a meal, etc., and I stuck by them. First guy we meet up, and he doesn't talk, like grunts and nods, but no actual syllables. It's like pulling teeth. I ask him any question I can think of, and I get nothing. I should note that I went out with him because he was attractive enough, but really because he was a legit rocket scientist. Big brains are sexy. I'm about to end it with the "oops, I forgot I have a party to get to. Nice to have met you." But out of nowhere he perks up, "Hey, my friends are over in blank, a podunk town 3 hours away, and are having and Scanite Arrows battle. You want to go?" No, I do not want to be stuck in a car and go 3 hours away with a complete stranger to sleep in dirt. No, I don't. I made gracious apologies and he's silent for a moment, and I get this. So, "Hey, would you put your mouth on it?" Cue my hysterical laughter and sudden exit. I think he grunted the word bitch as I made my merry way home. Save the best for last. So, this is my second date, and the guy had been funny, and we had good conversation on the first date. At this point it's been a while, and when he invited me to his place for a movie, I'm fine with sleeping/making out with him because, hey, mama needs a ride. We start making out and he burps. Now, I'm fine with weird happenings during sex, because let's face it, sex is all naked sweaty time involving bodily fluids. It's messy and fun. So I'm totally okay, but this dude freaks the fuck out. He literally pulls away, curls in the fetal position, and start rocking back and forth repeating I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry over and over again. I explain my sex theory, and it falls on deaf ears. Still rocking and muttering. I realize that this guy's gonna be a horrible lay. If you can't brush off a tiny burp and start going all catatonic on it, sex is not gonna be no holds barred fun. So after about 15 minutes, and he still hasn't calmed down, I take my leave. Rule #47, always drive yourself. I go home, and my friend and I go to the Og Pancake House for late night grub and storytelling. I accidentally leave my phone at home. We get home later, and I have 50 voicemails and missed calls. All from Burpee. I can't listen to all of them, but they start out apologetic and end up getting angrier and angrier. The best one has turned into an inside joke among my friends. Imagine this read in an angry porn voice. "If you had just stayed an hour longer, we could have been there by now. But you didn't, you bitch, and now you vexed the John. It's not wise to vex the John." Later he turned his profile into a screed against me. Good times, good times. There was also the time I unknowingly went out with a still married transvestite whose wife was cheating on him with his own ex-girlfriend. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.